Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think is really interesting,
Yeah.
and that is the idea of false friends in language.
Okay.
And by that, I don't mean the kind of friend that like talks about you behind your back.
Right.
I mean words that look or sound really similar between languages,
Yeah.
but have totally different meanings.
Exactly.
And I think this is something that can really trip up even experienced language learners.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to kind of dive into some examples and figure out how we can avoid these pitfalls.
Yeah, and it can lead to some very funny situations when you use the wrong word because it sounds like it should be the right word.
Yeah.
It's like that friend who says they're going to bring snacks to the party
Yeah.
and then they don't.
Yeah.
You know, it looks familiar, but it's not delivering what you thought it would.
Totally. And I think one of the best examples of this is the word embarazada in Spanish,
Yeah.
which sounds a lot like embarrassed in English.
It does.
But it actually means pregnant. And so you can imagine if you're trying to say that you're embarrassed about something
Oh, yeah.
and you accidentally say embarazada.
Especially in a professional setting.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could lead to some really awkward misunderstandings.
Huge misunderstandings.
So let's maybe jump into some other examples.
Sure.
I know we've got a bunch here from all different kinds of languages.
Yeah, it seems like every language has these little linguistic booby traps
Right.
just waiting for us.
Yeah, and so I think it'll be fun to kind of go through them and see what we can learn.
I agree.
So let's start with a word that seems super basic.
Yep.
Actually.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like, especially if you're coming from like Spanish or Portuguese or French,
Yeah.
it's really tempting to just translate that directly.
Yeah, you would think it would mean currently,
Right.
but that's not what it means.
Exactly.
Not at all.
So in English, it's more like a word that emphasizes a point.
Right.
Like in fact or really. So if you say like, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like, what are you doing right now?
Right.
It means like, what is the truth of the situation?
What is the real deal?
You're looking for the real truth of what's going on.
So that's really interesting because it kind of shows how English and those Romance languages kind of put the emphasis on different things.
Absolutely.
Like English is putting the emphasis on the fact,
Uh-huh.
the truth of the statement,
Right.
whereas those other languages are often emphasizing the time element.
The time element, exactly.
You ever thought about it that way?
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So true.
And it can lead to some pretty funny mix-ups.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like I had a student one time who was using the word pretending,
Okay.
but he meant it as expecting.
Oh.
Probably influenced by the Italian word pretendere.
Interesting.
But he was talking about expecting a raise at work.
Oh, no.
And I bet his boss was very confused.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, like, can you imagine? It's like I'm pretending to get a raise.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
Not quite the same.
Yeah.
So it really shows how, like, even a small difference in meaning
Yeah.
can have a huge impact
Absolutely.
on how you come across.
Yeah. Context is key
Yeah,
in language more than we often realize.
definitely. And I think another word that can be really tricky is sympathetic.
Yeah.
Because I know in a lot of other languages, it basically just means like friendly.
Right. Or nice.
Right.
But in English,
Yeah.
it has a much more specific meaning.
It's more about like empathy,
Exactly.
really understanding someone's feeling.
Yeah. Like you could say, my friend was so sympathetic when I told her about my breakup.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're really feeling for them.
Have you ever had any students like completely misinterpret that word?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Because it seems like that could lead to some real misunderstanding.
Oh, absolutely. Like I had a student who thought it meant agreeable, and he was using it to describe someone who agreed with his political opinions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it definitely took some explaining to clear up that confusion.
Yeah.
But it's funny now looking back on it.
Yeah.
But at the time it was like, oh,
Right.
we gotta fix this.
Yeah, you got to clear this up.
Yeah.
It's funny how even words that seem really simple
Mhm.
can actually be these like hidden false friends.
Absolutely.
Like another one that I think is really common is library versus library.
Oh, yeah.
So in French, library actually means bookstore.
Right.
And so it's easy to see how someone could mix those up.
Especially since they both have to do with books.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder to always double check,
Yeah.
even those words that seem familiar.
Always double check.
Yeah.
Never hurt.
Because you never know
Never.
what surprises might be lurking.
Exactly.
All right. Well, speaking of surprises,
Oh, boy.
let's talk about excited.
Ooh, this one can be dangerous.
This is a good one. I think we all know why we aren't using the Spanish word excitado here.
Yes.
Um, it definitely carries a different connotation.
Very different.
So in English, excited just means, enthusiastic,
Yeah.
looking forward to something.
Exactly.
There's no like hidden meaning.
Yeah.
It's just pure, innocent enthusiasm.
Pure enthusiasm.
So if you're excited about your upcoming trip,
Right.
you can shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
But I imagine if you use the Spanish equivalent, you might get some strange looks.
You would get some strange looks.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how important cultural context is.
Right?
Words are just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's time to play a little game
Oh, fun. I like games.
to see how you're doing with these tricky false friends.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so imagine you're having a conversation with someone and they ask you, what are you actually doing?
Okay.
What are they really asking?
They're asking, what is the true nature of my current actions?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I really up to?
What's the real deal?
Yeah.
What are you really doing right now?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Got it.
All right, now picture a child completely absorbed in their imaginary world, playing pretend.
Okay.
What word would we use to describe what they're doing?
They are pretending.
Exactly.
Lost in their imagination.
They're pretending.
Yeah.
Okay, and how about sympathetic?
Okay.
How would you use it to describe a friend who's offering comfort and understanding?
You could say my friend was incredibly sympathetic when I confided in her about my anxieties.
Perfect.
She really listened and offered words of support.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Thank you.
All right, now you need to borrow a book for some light reading.
Okay.
Where do you head?
Straight to the library.
Spot on.
Gotta get my book fix.
Okay, and lastly, you just scored tickets to your favorite band's concert. How are you feeling?
I am so excited.
I bet.
Can't wait to sing along to all their hits.
All right, it seems like you're navigating these tricky false friends like a pro.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But you know what? I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface of this topic.
Yeah, you're right.
There's so much more to explore.
So now that we've tackled some English-centric examples,
Uh-huh.
it's time to go global
Okay.
and explore how these linguistic quirks play out across different cultures.
I'm excited.
Get ready for some truly hilarious and sometimes awkward situations.
What I find so intriguing is how false friends can reveal these surprising connections between languages and cultures.
Right.
It's like piecing together a historical puzzle.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, so stay with us.
Yeah, don't go anywhere.
Things are about to get even more interesting.
This is where the real fun begins.
Exactly. You know, earlier we were talking about embarazada in Spanish
Right?
and how it can lead to some like really red-faced moments.
Yeah, that's a classic.
I actually have a friend who was telling her Spanish tutor how excited she was about an upcoming trip,
Oh.
and she accidentally used excitada instead of emocionada,
Oh.
and her tutor's jaw just about hit the floor.
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine the look on her face.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where you just like wanted to disappear.
Yeah, I've definitely had students make similar mistakes.
Yeah.
Like trying to say they're embarrassed, but accidentally saying embarazada instead.
Oh, it happens to the best of us.
It really does. But, at least it makes for a good story later.
Exactly, and it makes the language learning journey a little more interesting.
That's true.
It's not all about textbooks and grammar rules.
Definitely not. You got to have some fun with it.
Yeah. You got to embrace the mistakes.
Exactly.
I remember one time I was talking to a French speaker, and they kept using the word deranged,
Oh,
but they meant it as interrupted.
interesting.
And it took me a while to figure out what they were trying to say.
Yeah, in French, déranger does mean disturbed or interrupted, so it
Yeah.
makes sense that they would use it that way.
It's fascinating how these false friends can kind of give us a glimpse into the history of language.
It's like they're these little linguistic time capsules.
Exactly. Show us how languages have evolved and borrowed from each other over time.
And sometimes those borrowings get a little lost in translation.
Right. And it's not just Romance languages that have these false friends.
Oh, no, not at all.
German has some great ones, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like the word bekommen.
Oh, yeah. That one's tricky.
That sounds so much like become in English,
It does.
but it actually means to get or to receive. So can you imagine saying, like, I'm becoming a coffee?
When you just want to order one.
Exactly. It would sound very strange.
That's hilarious.
It is. And then there's the word handy,
Oh, yeah. Handy.
which in German means mobile phone.
I know. It's so confusing.
It is. I mean, how did that even become a word for mobile phone?
Right. It's a mystery.
But it just goes to show you that even simple words can have completely different meanings.
Depending on the language.
Exactly. You can't always rely on your intuition.
And with globalization, we're seeing even more interesting crossovers.
Oh, absolutely. Like the Japanese word smart, which often means slim or slender in Japanese English.
So you could compliment someone on their outfit by saying they look very smart.
And they would take it as a compliment about their figure.
Exactly. It's so interesting how language is constantly changing and adapting.
It really is, especially in our increasingly interconnected world.
It's amazing how these seemingly small quirks of language can have such a big impact on communication.
They really can, and it highlights the importance of not just understanding vocabulary,
Yeah,
but also the cultural nuances and contexts in which words are used.
absolutely well said.
Thank you.
Are you ready for round 2 of our false friends challenge?
Bring it on. I'm feeling much more confident now.
All right, let's see what you've got.
Okay.
Picture this, you're chatting with a Spanish speaker and they excitedly exclaim, "Estoy embarazada."
Oh, they're announcing that they're pregnant.
Exactly.
Not that they're embarrassed.
That's right.
Big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay, now imagine you're in France and someone says they're dérangé.
Okay. They're trying to tell me they're disturbed or interrupted.
Exactly.
And not deranged in the English sense.
Right.
More of a temporary inconvenience.
Yeah, just a slight disruption.
Exactly.
Now, a German friend tells you they're going to be coming a coffee.
They're going to get or receive a coffee.
Nailed it.
Much more straightforward that way.
Okay, last one. You're rocking a new outfit and your Japanese friend compliments you saying you look very smart.
They're probably complimenting my slim or slender figure.
That's right.
A different kind of smart than what we're used to in English.
You've officially become a false friends detective.
I'm loving this new title.
But you know what's really fascinating about all these examples is that they highlight the importance of understanding cultural context.
Absolutely. Words are just one part of communication.
Yeah.
Nonverbal cues, cultural norms, shared understanding, they all play a crucial role in conveying meaning.
False friends are such a great example of how language can be both captivating and complex.
They really are.
But ultimately, they remind us that living a new language is an adventure,
It is.
full of surprises and unexpected twists and turns.
It's all about expanding our horizons and embracing the incredible diversity of human expression.
And sometimes it's about being able to laugh at ourselves when we inevitably stumble along the way.
Oh, for sure. Those stumbles often make for the best stories.
They do,
Yeah.
but, we've been focusing on how other languages can trip us up when we're speaking English.
Right.
What about the other way around?
That's a great point. I bet there are tons of false friends lurking out there for English speakers learning other languages.
I'm sure there are.
It would be interesting to explore those too.
That's a fantastic idea. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about those.
I think so too.
But first, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap up this fascinating deep dive into the world of false friends. Wow, we have uncovered a lot of linguistic landmines today.
We have. It's like a minefield out there for language learners.
But, like we were saying before the break, we've been focusing on how other languages can trip us up when we're speaking English.
Right. We've been very English-centric in our examples.
Exactly. And I bet there are tons of false friends out there for English speakers who are learning other languages.
Oh, absolutely. It's a two-way street for sure.
So it's not just about avoiding those awkward situations.
Right.
It's about taking a look at our own language with fresh eyes.
Exactly.
Right.
Thinking about it from a different perspective.
What English words might sound deceptively familiar to speakers of other languages?
It's a good thought experiment.
It really makes you realize how much we take for granted even in our own native tongue.
Yeah. What seems straightforward to us could be a real head-scratcher for someone else.
And that's where the fun begins, right? Unraveling these linguistic mysteries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a never-ending puzzle.
So, dear listener, we're throwing down a challenge for you.
Okay. I like challenges.
Think about your own language
Uh-huh.
and the languages you're learning.
Yeah.
What false friends have you come across?
Or what false friends do you think might exist between your language and others?
Don't be shy. Share your stories with us.
Yeah, we want to hear about your linguistic adventures.
The hilarious mishaps.
Those aha moments when you finally cracked the code of a tricky false friend.
You can find us on social media.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe your story will be featured in a future episode.
Because at the end of the day, language is all about connection and understanding.
And sometimes a good laugh at our own expense.
Well said. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing the wonderful world of languages.
It's full of surprises just waiting to be discovered.
Until next time, happy language learning, everyone.